Have you ever had to stand up for what you believe in, even when everyone else was doing something different? Well, today we're going to hear a story about three incredibly brave friends who did just that. And you won't believe what happened next. Our story begins a long, long time ago in the grand city of Babylon. The mighty King Nebuchadnezzar had a big idea. He decided to build a gigantic statue. And this wasn't just any statue. It was made of pure, gleaming gold, standing 90 feet tall. It shimmered and shone so brightly under the sun, you could probably see it from miles away. Once the magnificent statue was finished, the king sent out a royal decree. He invited all the important people from all over his kingdom, the princes, the governors, the captains, everyone. A huge crowd gathered before the golden giant. Then a herald shouted the king's command in a voice that boomed across the plain. When you hear the sound of the horn, the flute, the lyre, the harp, and all kinds of music, you must fall down and worship the golden statue that King Nebuchadnezzar has set up. Anyone who does not bow down will be thrown immediately into a blazing, fiery furnace. As the first notes of the royal orchestra filled the air, a wave of motion swept through the crowd. One by one, thousands of people fell to their knees, their faces pressed to the ground, all worshiping the golden statue. But wait, in the middle of this bowing crowd, three figures remained standing tall. Their names were Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They were friends, and they had made a promise to worship only the one true God. They looked at the statue, then at each other, and they did not bow. They knew God's law said, "You shall have no other gods before me," and they intended to keep it no matter the cost. Well, it didn't take long for some of the king's officials to notice. They rushed to King Nebuchadnezzar, their voices filled with accusation. "O king, live forever," they began. "You made a decree that everyone should bow to the golden statue. But there are three men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, whom you put in charge of the province of Babylon. They have ignored your command, O king. They do not serve your gods or worship the golden statue you have set up." When King Nebuchadnezzar heard this, his face turned red with fury. He was filled with rage. "Bring them to me at once." He roared. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were brought before the furious king. He glared at them and asked, "Is it true? Do you refuse to serve my gods and worship the golden statue?" He gave them one last chance. "If you are ready to fall down and worship the statue when you hear the music, very well. But if you do not worship, you will be thrown into a blazing furnace. Then what God will be able to rescue you from my hands?" Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego looked the king straight in the eye. Their voices were calm and steady. "O Nebuchadnezzar, we do not need to defend ourselves before you in this matter. If we are thrown into the blazing furnace, the God we serve is able to deliver us from it, and he will rescue us from your majesty's hand. But even if he does not, we want you to know, your majesty, that we will not serve your gods or worship the image of gold you have set up." This was not the answer the king wanted. He was so enraged that his entire attitude toward them changed. He ordered his men to heat the furnace 7 times hotter than usual. It glowed with a terrifying, white-hot intensity. Then he commanded some of the strongest soldiers in his army to tie up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, fully clothed in their robes, trousers, and turbans. The soldiers grabbed 3 friends, bound them tightly with ropes, and dragged them to the mouth of the furnace. The fire was so incredibly hot that the flames leaped out and instantly consumed the strong soldiers who were throwing them in. And so Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, tied up tight, fell down into the heart of the blazing furnace. King Nebuchadnezzar sat on his throne, watching, expecting to see them vanish in the flames. But then something astonishing happened. The king leaped to his feet in amazement. His eyes were wide with disbelief. He turned to his advisors and cried out, "Weren't there 3 men that we tied up and threw into the fire?" They replied, "Certainly, your majesty." The king exclaimed, "Look, I see 4 men walking around in the fire, unbound and unharmed, and the fourth looks like a son of the gods." Inside that roaring inferno, a miracle was happening. The ropes that had bound the 3 friends were burned away, but the fire didn't touch them. They weren't cowering in a corner. They were walking around freely in the middle of the flames, and they were not alone. A 4th figure was with them, a glorious shining person who walked beside them, protecting them from all harm. It was as if the deadliest fire had become a pleasant, warm garden for them. The flames danced around them, but could not singe a single hair on their heads. The king couldn't believe his eyes. He hurried to the opening of the furnace, his voice no longer filled with anger, but with awe. "Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, servants of the Most High God, come out. Come here," he called. So, from the middle of the fire, the 3 friends walked out. A crowd of officials and advisors gathered around them, staring in utter wonder. They examined them closely. Not a hair on their heads was singed. Their robes were not scorched. And incredibly, there wasn't even the slightest smell of smoke on their clothes. It was as if they had just returned from a leisurely stroll, not from the center of a superheated furnace. They had walked through the fire and come out completely untouched. King Nebuchadnezzar was overwhelmed. He lifted his voice and declared, "Praise be to the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who has sent his angel and rescued his servants." They trusted in him and defied the king's command and were willing to give up their lives rather than serve or worship any god except their own God. Then the king made a new law for the entire kingdom. He declared that anyone who said anything against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego would be punished severely, for no other god can save in this way. And after that day, the king promoted the 3 brave friends to even higher positions in the province of Babylon. Even the animals of the land seemed to sense the great miracle. In the forests, the mighty lions, usually so fierce, seemed to bow their heads in respect. In the trees, the little birds chirped their songs a little louder and a little sweeter, as if celebrating the power and goodness of the one true God. The whole of creation seemed to rejoice, because God had shown his mighty power and saved his faithful followers. So what does this incredible story teach us today? It shows us that when you have the courage to stand for what is right, when you put your trust in God, you are never truly alone. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego faced the fire, and Jesus walked right in there with them. He didn't just stand on the outside and cheer them on. He got into the fire with them. In the same way, when you face difficult times, when you feel like you're in a fiery furnace of your own, remember this story. When you stand for Jesus, he stands with you. He will walk with you through any challenge and bring you out safely on the other side, without even the smell of smoke. Thanks for watching our story today. I hope it encouraged you to be brave and to always trust in God. Remember to like this video and subscribe for more amazing stories. Have a blessed day, and never forget that you are never alone in the fire.